Let's call this meeting to order. It's 8:15. Everybody is present and accounted for. We need a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Doak,
Second.
seconded by Joel. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve the minutes. You all got a copy of the March 10th meeting minutes. Any additions, corrections? If not, motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Doug. Was motion by Doak, I'm sorry. Motion by Doug, the second, all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move forward. First one, Jeff, you're on the agenda.
Thank you. I did ask that a item be put on the agenda for consideration. It relates to the public defenders. So there is a public defender's office in Green Bay, and they serve Brown County, Door County, and Kewaunee County. And what happens is if someone's charged with a crime and certain other categories of cases like juvenile cases, cases where children are in need of protection and services, guardianship cases, mental health cases, certain cases like that where a person is entitled to an attorney by the public defender, that office either has a staff attorney handle the cases. We have a staff attorney that comes here every week. Or if there's a conflict that the staff attorney can't handle the case, then they appoint the case to private attorneys who get paid the public defender rate. Well, the problem we're running into is that there is just a shortage of attorneys who are willing to take these private appointment cases through the public defender's office. And it's becoming a real issue. There have been a number of news reports where people are basically sitting in jail or cases are just stalling out because the public defender cannot locate attorneys to take on these cases, and it's becoming a problem. The most acute problem is if someone's sitting in jail and the case is stalled out. I think there was a rare case or two where charges actually had to be dismissed until such time as they could find an attorney for a defendant. Obviously, that's a rare case, but it is becoming the real practical problem for us is, some of these cases we're trying to get moving forward and we just can't get anywhere because there's no attorneys for the parties. A good example might be we have a couple child in need of protection and services cases where these children we pulled them out of the home into foster care. And we have a case going on and we want to get attorneys for some of the parties and we just cannot. And it's important that we move very quickly because obviously we want to get these children back home and get the case moving along and they stall out for, it costs us a month or two, which doesn't seem long, but in the life of a child, a month or two is a long, long time. So it's becoming a real issue. There was a resolution passed by the Brown County Board of Supervisors that I borrowed and I tweaked it up a little bit. And I would ask the committee to consider it. My main focus is to just point out to our legislative leaders and the governor that, hey, this is a real problem and you need to do something to try to fix it. What they did do a couple years ago is they raised the rate. Now, if you were a private attorney and you took on a public defender case, you receive $70 per hour. That's what you can bill the public defender's office. Now, people would say, well, $70, that sounds pretty generous. Well, if you have an office and everything else, $70 doesn't go very far if you got to pay for staff and so on. By contrast, if you are appointed by the court, if the county appoints you to be an attorney for some case, you get $100 an hour for that work. And well, the point being is attorneys aren't doing it for 70, or at least not enough of them are doing it for 70. So maybe they should consider looking at that rate, or they should consider one of the other options is maybe create these little regional hubs where if there's a glut of cases that these regional offices could help respond to some of these cases. So in any event, I would ask the committee to at least consider this resolution to urge our legislative leaders to really take a look at this problem. It's not getting better. One of the other issues is we're seeing a shortage of attorneys generally in rural areas. You know, you get up in the northern area, in some of these rural areas, you're just seeing a shortage of attorneys. So that could be part of the problem as well. It seems to be that there's less people going into law, which they should. It's a great profession. Good people are lawyers. But the ones that are going into law seem to be congregating in, the larger cities, that just seems to be the trend. So we're actually doing okay. We have close proximity to Green Bay in the valleys. So it seems to be that it isn't an acute problem here, though locally, there's not a lot of young attorneys. I'm 44 now, and there's only one other attorney that's younger than me that works in our county. So I've been the youngest attorney since I've been in the county, and they keep dying off. Fortunately, we just had another attorney pass away. So it is an issue, and I would hope that we could consider this resolution to pass it on, and maybe the state. It just lends our voice that something needs to be done about this. So that's why I brought it.
Jeff, question for you. On this, where you have the resolution requesting the state of Wisconsin take up the action, is there something different in there? It says there's approximately 0 defendants in Kewaunee County, and then it said that there's 17 that have been in custody and sought representation. So
Where are you looking?
If you look down at the second paragraph, whereas the local trial office that serves Brown, Kewaunee, and Door is located in Green Bay, there's approximately 0 defendants in Kewaunee County that currently need SPD representation, 17 of which have been in custody.
Oh, that's the Brown County sample.
You're looking at.
I'm looking at, yeah. So the sample you have you are looking at. Oh, did the sheriff's department try to change this up, or did someone?
It came in the email.
I don't know who changed those numbers. I don't remember changing those. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Someone must have tried to change that unless. But I did put together a resolution on our format that's in the materials.
Jeff is on this format.
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering why the difference is between the two, what the story was there.
I do know that I did receive a copy of the resolution from Brown, and I did share that, and I'm not sure who made these edits to this one. And in mine, I took off those paragraphs. So that's a mystery to me. Someone got their hands on that.
Okay. Go ahead, Doe.
But if we're to go forward to the board on the next board meeting, it'll be the one that Jeff wrote up.
The official one that Jeff
Yes.
wrote up, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Pardon?
This one has our signatures on it.
Yeah, correct. That's why I'm asking there's, why there's difference between them.
Right. Very often, we are very good, as you know, the jail issues, we're very good about getting people out of jail pre-trial. So if you're arrested or charges are filed, our county is a pretty good track record of getting those folks out on bail in some fashion. Once in a while, some people sit in jail waiting for their case to proceed, but very often we get them out on bail. So that's not the issue here. Our issue is more of, sure, they're out on bail, but they don't have an attorney, and the case is just languishing in court because they can't get an attorney, or it takes months. Well, we waste a lot of time waiting 2, 3, 4 months for them to find an attorney. And then, as happens, some of these defendants get this attorney and they don't like them, so they want another one. Well, then we got to wait another 2, 3 months for them to find another attorney. So, so that's the request.
Okay.
I got a question. What's the
Joe?
criteria to get a public defender? What do you have to have?
There's like an income threshold. I don't know what the dollar figures are. It's probably something like 200% of the poverty line or something like that. It used to be far worse, and then they loosened it up a little bit. It used to be if you literally had $1 in your pocket, you couldn't get a public defender. Now it's a little, I think it's something on the order of 200% of the poverty line or something. But basically, if you're unemployed, that's usually you can get a public defender. Anybody under the age of 18, so if you're 17 or younger, you get a public defender. There are certain cases where you, for my mental health cases and guardianship cases, regardless of income, you can get a public defender. And if you make some kind of money, like you have a job, but you really can't afford an attorney, then the county appoints those.
Okay. What's the wishes of the committee?
I make a motion to approve approve the resolution. and move it forward to council.
Okay, so we have a motion by Doak to move this resolution forward to county board. Do we have a second to that? Seconded by Scott. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Next, Tracy, you're up.
Okay, everyone got a copy of all the budgets. Did anyone have any questions in regards to emergency management? Because there's nothing really on there that is out of the ordinary. So no questions on the budget. Review upcoming training and exercises. So in May, we will be having an active threat presentation put on by Chief Deputy Vaser. That invite will be going out to all the county employees here late April so they can sign up. We're going to have 2 different sessions for that. Thank you, Jason. The other thing I wanted to mention is this week there will be a statewide tornado drill. It is scheduled to be held Thursday. With any severe weather, then it'll be Friday. So there's been some changes in how the state is doing it as well as how the county is doing it. This year, National Weather Service is not issuing any live EAS codes. So no TV stations or radio stations will be getting that automatic interruption for the tornado watch or tornado warnings that are being issued for the statewide drill. With that, there is no interruptions to those. We decided not to do the sounding of the sirens in Kewaunee County for the statewide tornado drill due to the fact that if we did sound them and people went inside to turn on their TV or listen to the news to find out what's going on, which is what we've always directed them to do, there would be nothing telling them that this is a test. So, but we will be using Rave Alert to send out messages to those that have registered here in Kewaunee County. They will get a text message at 1:45 and then again at 6:45, as well as a phone call. Any questions on the statewide tornado drill? I do want to mention that I know Door County is not sounding their sirens. Manitowoc County is sounding their sirens. I'm unsure of how other counties are participating. Next on the agenda is update on sirens. So still working on that with Point Beach. They are, we being ourselves in Manitowoc County, have asked them to put together a letter that will go on Point Beach letterhead out to the municipalities that have sirens in their jurisdiction. Waiting to see how that's going to proceed. The other thing I want to mention about sirens is in the past with the sirens here in Kewaunee County, those specifically that were in the EPZ, but we did them for all the ones in Kewaunee County. On the first Wednesday of the month, we would do a siren test for 1 minute at approximately 11:45. Then on the third Wednesday of the month at about 10:15, we would do what is called a growl test. The siren just made a little bit of a growl noise, and that was done on behalf of the nuclear power plant that they needed that for their documentation to supply, I believe, to NRC. With that, Point Beach is no longer maintaining the sirens. They no longer need these reports done by us. I'm going to be asking next month for the committee to agree to take out us doing the monthly growl test that is done on the third Wednesday of the month. There's no requirement for us to do that anymore. So I was just bringing that up. I will bring that forward again next month. Any questions on that? All right. Brief on COVID-19. So one thing I did want to mention, I mean, we've been doing the same stuff our office has been doing. With the vaccination clinics, our office helps coordinate the volunteers that come in to do the sanitization, as well as any emergency medical responders that come in to help monitor and observe those that have been vaccinated. Since end of January, with our volunteers, they have put in over 320 hours just with their volunteer time. And they will continue to volunteer until whenever this is done. That's pretty much on the COVID-19 part. Like I said, we've been doing the same stuff. The other thing I wanted to mention then is the virtual EOC brief update. We did hold that yesterday. It has been a year since we've been doing these virtual EOC activations. So I thank everybody else so far for their continual participation. We go around to everybody in the EOC with any updates that they have. As everyone is aware, on April 1st, Public Health did issue a mask advisory. Kewaunee Extension continues to reach out to the agricultural. They've been working with Public Health and Emergency Management to get addresses to the farms, those with the bigger workforce, to get them have access for vaccinations. With that, they're also making sure that those that have English not as their primary language, they have access to information that is being sent to the owners or managers. They can access a website to get the information to those with language barriers. What else is that? Public Health has been keeping up, our Public Information Officer is keeping up on the website with the numbers that Public Health supplies. Law enforcement is not responding to rescue calls while they are in the area if needed. And otherwise, everything is pretty much back to normal. One thing I do want to mention that our office talked about is FEMA has released some interim policy guidance for COVID-19 funeral assistance program. I don't have the specifics on that because the state has not released that information to us yet. But for those that have a COVID-19 death, after I think it was January 20th of 2020, they are able to reach out to FEMA for reimbursement of funeral expenses if it was a COVID-19 death. For that, they will reach out directly to FEMA to coordinate that. And I'm waiting on that phone number from FEMA to be able to get that out as well. But that's pretty much how the update went from yesterday. Any questions on that?
What do they classify as a COVID-19 death? I mean, what if the person was dying of cancer before this and all of a sudden they also contracted COVID?
If it's listed on the death certificate.
So it could be a dying of cancer, but it's listed as COVID to make it sound better?
I don't know. I mean, I don't do the death certificates, but in order for a family to be able to apply for reimbursement, the death certificate will have to have somewhere on there stated COVID-19. It's been a while since I've looked at a death certificate, so. They do have, with that policy, they've got maximum amounts. You know, I've read a little bit about it where if a family paid for someone to pass away, or not to pass away, but they're seeking reimbursement from them passing away. You know, you can have multiple people applying for one individual, but then it's a group reimbursement request, I believe. So like if I don't want to talk ill of anyone because it hasn't happened. So I guess we'll see how it moves forward once the guidance and policy fully comes out.
I mean, because I've often wondered with all this so-called COVID stuff, I mean, how many people in the past year have not died of a heart attack, have not died of a stroke. It all got blamed on COVID. I mean, all of a sudden, nobody was dying of any other cause, but they were all dying of COVID. And I'm starting to wonder how many are actually dying of COVID, or are they actually getting, the numbers are getting shoved to COVID because it's beneficially financially better for the various medical organizations to collect off the COVID funds.
Like I said, it's going to be documentation that FEMA is going to request of whoever is seeking reimbursement. And the death certificate will have to have COVID-19 listed on there. And it's reimbursement for paid funeral expenses.
Okay. Let's go to your high frequency antenna.
Yes, so the amateur radio operators that are at the EOC, they are backup communication in the event we were to lose total communication. So phone lines go down, email goes down, internet goes down. They can still, we need to have them be able to communicate with Madison. So in order for them to have this access, it is a high frequency antenna project that they've been working on out at the fairgrounds. And I sent you guys what was put together, some photos, because they did a prototype just to see if they could set it up, how it would look. And what I need from you guys is approval to move forward with this so I can go to the next committee for approval. And the high frequency is what is needed for amateur radio to reach Madison again in the event of total communication failure.
We can't hook up to the existing pole that's there for the
Antenna
cell
outside?
com- Yeah, the Cellcom tower. That tower that's right in back of the building.
No, they were told that they could not, that it would interfere with the frequency.
Okay. Okay.
And they looked at going on top of the roof, but that is not ideal because they'd have to go, anytime there's an issue, they'd have to go into the building to get up on top, and it'd have to be spread across the entire roof of the building. So then we looked at utilizing what was outside, and by using the light poles, they could have a thin wire that stretches out to be, and that way then no vehicle that goes through would snag on it, that sort of stuff.
Okay. Scott, you got a question?
Tracy, is this the same group that came to the Parks Committee to put up antennas up in their trees in the fairgrounds? Okay, like Harley Dan and their group?
Correct.
Okay.
So Mike Huber should have been there talking about it as well.
Mhm.
So this is a backup, right?
Correct.
Has this already been tried and you've proven that it works with the state?
They tested it, yes,
tested it.
with the prototype.
And then will it be tested on some frequency after it's in, or is this, we put it up and then we find out if it works again if we finally need it?
I'm not an amateur radio operator, but I can have them tested on a somewhat regular basis just to make sure that what they have up is still functioning properly. There are amateur radio operators down in Madison that they do communicate with in other means as well.
So Tracy, this group pays for all the costs then, or?
So the funding for this would actually come from funding that I get from Point Beach. That would pay for the wire if they needed additional wire. The gentleman that would be doing the installation, that would come from funds from Point Beach, due to the fact that in the event of a nuclear incident is mainly the reason for the backup, not that a nuclear incident is going to cause total communication dropping of phone lines and internet, but that is the primary focus.
Okay. Doug,
I make a motion to accept it and move it to the next committee.
okay. We need a second on that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Doug, by Scott first, before Joe.
Okay.
Any discussion?
What committee does this go to next?
Pardon?
What committee does it go to next?
Scott's committee, right?
It goes to finance and,
Oh, it goes,
It's not that much money, is it?
No, it should not be.
Goes on there, usually has to go through parks anyway.
yeah, so.
Oh, okay.
you guys approved it already, Scott?
No.
Oh, you did?
We approved that group testing in the trees a few years ago. It's a good backup system. If everything is out, if electricity and everything's out, they can communicate all over the place.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move forward. Okay, you have a letter going out to WEM, and I'm not, tell me what WEM stands for.
So Wisconsin Emergency Management.
All right,
So Wisconsin Emergency Management Association had sent out a letter to WEM, the Wisconsin Disaster Fund section, to ask them to consider changing some language and policy change in WEM 7. If there is a disaster that happens anywhere in the state of Wisconsin, WEM always wants it to be reported like within 24 hours that you know where you're at. WEMA, or Wisconsin Emergency Management Association, sent out a letter for them to consider a language change to be within 5 days of the incident period and date and time. Because if there is a disaster going on anywhere in the state of Wisconsin, a lot of emergency management offices are small staffed. So you're expected to go out there, find out how much disaster has occurred in your community, as well as reaching out to your elected officials to get them on board, getting disaster declarations when you don't know where anything is at yet. So WEMA sent a letter asking them to consider this change in policy and language. With that, they did ask all of the emergency management offices if they wanted to please send a letter in support of that. So our office is in support of asking them to do within the 5 days of the incident period and date and time, just to give someone more time if needed to get those declarations collected, to find out where we're at in the disaster, to get that to the state. And that went to the disaster fund, Wisconsin Disaster Fund Committee. So that is just, I guess, more just to bring to your attention of the language change that's being asked at the state level. Any questions on that?
I'm good. Any questions for Tracy? It's more or less just a
Yeah, it's just information. let you know.
informational item. All right. We've got nothing else for you, but you got anything else? Other than Tracy's going on vacation,
Looking forward to it.
you could go down and drink bullshit, drink beer and have bullshit down in Texas. Yeah. Sassy on Johnny. All right. Sheriff's Department.
Okay, to start off with the budget, I'll probably talk about this a couple different ways because later on we talk about overtime, but overtime is about on budget or a hair high. We're a little under in the jail, a little over on patrol. We did have a couple FMLA issues in patrol and those are continuing on. We had an officer get hurt in the line of duty about a week ago, and the immediate need to fill those shifts becomes a problem, and it always creates overtime. Luckily, we had someone cross-trained, so that's an individual in the jail that can work patrol. And the lieutenants were very quick to react and move that individual to patrol. That's saving us right off the bat. The first 4 weeks, we had 120 hours of overtime scheduled because of that loss. That officer went down, plus we have someone on maternity leave, so patrol is already one low because we have a patrol officer filling in the schools for the maternity leave. So with the 2 officers down, it created a lot of overtime right off the bat by being able to react quickly and move that officer from jail onto patrol. And they're already trained. So we eliminated most of that 120 hours other than the first few days. So that worked out really well for us. Training it's going to be high this year. I can tell you that already. It's going to be probably over budget if we broke down the overtime budget. Hopefully something else offsets that. But last year with COVID, we had to reduce our training, and there's mandatory training everybody has to go to every year. And to make up for that, it's just going to be a little bit over this year, and there's not a lot we can do with that. The only other thing I noticed in the budget is the monitoring fees were pretty high, but that's because we have so many people on electronic monitoring. A lot of that money, we bill those individuals for it. So a lot of that comes back in. Unless they're indigent, then it doesn't come back in. So, but we still bill them for it. Are there any other questions on the budget? Okay, moving on to staffing update. We're in the process of, well, actually, we reviewed our eligibility list already. We only had 9 applicants. Testing is set up for the 15th. This is an eligibility list because we're actually, knock on wood, becoming full staffed once our 2 people are trained. The problem is, we're down a significant number of people this year. With maternity leave, with the officer injury. We have an individual still on military leave that's out of the area. And then we have 2 people training. So in essence, we're kind of 5 people down. A lot of those are coming back though, and in June we'll be sitting a lot better than what we are now. And so with this cross-training individual I talked about that we moved from jail to patrol, that frees up another opening in jail for another cross-trained individual. I guess I would like some guidance from the board, but my understanding is that the county board okayed all subsequent positions when we had the jail lieutenant's position open. I'm sorry, the patrol lieutenant's position open, my old one. And this cross-trained jail member is still a subsequent position that is in essence created because of my old position. So I think we're okay just moving forward and filling that position. But I guess I would like some guidance from you all if we have to bring that back to county board or not.
That one that would have to be let's do that with a Scott question, okay?
Okay.
Because as I recall, we know that there was going to be that ladder effect, okay? And unfortunately, it happens. So let's refer that one to Scott and see if he would. Let me just try if he's available. Okay, we'll see what happens. Also, we had the action in there, approve a continuous
Eligibility list.
eligibility list, because let's face it, 9 applicants is putting all of you guys in a real pickle.
And a lot of other counties, I would say most other counties, advertise all the time on WileyNet that it's a continuous hiring process. And we're in competition with those counties. When an opening comes available, if there's somebody out there that's a good candidate, maybe they just graduated from college, the the chances that I'm getting picked up very quickly are, very good. Counties are even resorting to one of the things, an email that goes around to chief deputies was going around that some counties were asking if anyone has ever hired essentially a high school student and put them through college with the promise that they're going to come and work for them. That's what it's getting to in our line of work. And you know what happens with college kids? So many people go to college and change their major and decide that isn't what they want to do. Investing that type of money into somebody really is a significant, it's showing how desperate counties are to try and find individuals. So that ongoing eligibility list, I think, would help a lot in that we could regularly test too, and at least have people ready to go. Or when we see a really good applicant, hopefully we could speed the process along and get that individual hired.
Okay. What is your feeling of the committee on this? Because we're gonna have to forward it to personnel. But I mean, I see nothing but issues if we have to continue to come back here to ask to establish an eligibility list. Because we have continuous turnover. So where's the feeling of the committee on it?
I think you should have a continuous because with all the issues going on around the country, it's only going to get harder and harder.
I mean, I think I talking to David Keel, and I believe he had said to me, he says, when he applied for a job, there were 200 applicants for that job. And what did you have this last time? 9?
9 applicants, and when we went through those, a couple of them are really long stretches with like no background in law enforcement whatsoever or in fire rescue. So even the 9, you can almost kind of whittle those down. But we left all but one in the mix because at least we'll test them and do an interview. Hopefully we get a couple decent candidates out of it, but you never know.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't understand the rules that we're being asked to change here. I kind of get the sense of it. What is actually the requirements around the eligibility list today that we want to change?
We want to go from basically what we'd like to do is change it so that we're always looking for applicants.
Well, what do we have? What's the restriction today?
Pardon?
What are we compelled to do today that you?
What we have to do is if the sheriff's department needs applicants, all right, they have to come to personnel and ask them to start advertising for
All right, every
applicants.
time.
So what'll happen is that Chris or Jason may find an applicant out there on the market, somebody is coming out of school, okay, that is available now. Well, we're going to waste the time for a month before we can, and maybe even more, depending on when personnel meets, trying to get that good applicant. And in the meantime, somebody else is going to snag them.
When we realize openings are coming, it isn't as bad. When somebody says, I'm going to retire 6 months from now, we have 6 months to go to personnel, ask to post an eligibility list, ask to test, and then we can move through the process. What happens though is all of a sudden somebody leaves for another department or somebody surprises us with a retirement. And now all of a sudden we got an opening and we have to come to law enforcement committee, ask to post it. Then they have to go to personnel committee, ask to post it. Then we're able to schedule a test. The test is a few weeks out. Well, no, then we have to post online and stuff and try and get applicants. Then we schedule a test once we get the applicants. The whole process, then we do interviews and 2 separate interviews. And we tried to shorten that length as much as we can, just like every other county out there is trying to do that, to be honest. Like one of the things we do is we do our 2 interviews one day after the other. Instead of waiting a long period of time, we set them up for both interviews right away. We do a physical agility in those 2 days, so that we were able to shrink from a month and a half apart to 2 days. But one of the big things that we haven't shrunk at all is the start of that eligibility list. So this would help that process. It would not help the posting process and the test. That's still something that maybe we can improve upon, shrinking that down. Maybe we can't, I don't know. But everything that we can shrink down makes it a little bit easier to, if you got the opening, to fill it quicker instead of waiting that. It used to be a 6-month process, seriously.
So people can, even if we don't have a job opening, people can apply and we can approve their eligibility if an opening comes up. Is that the point?
Yeah, we would just keep the list. And so there's 8 applicants on an ongoing basis. All of a sudden we have an opening. We got those 8. We could schedule a test for those 8. That's how I see it working.
Okay.
So it would skip the whole process of having to go through committee. So really there's no cost to it
Right.
other than we'd react quicker.
We're not promising
give
them
the
a job.
test.
We're just saying if one comes up, you've proven your eligibility to be considered for that job.
Yep, your application's in and we'll let you know when the next step is.
It seems common sense to do that. I guess I wonder why were we back into starting it over every time?
Probably because that's the way it's always been done.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes what worked 20 or 30 years ago in today's world doesn't work anymore.
Especially if it's competitive.
And
Turnover wasn't as great either, though. Probably.
it wasn't.
No.
It really wasn't. I mean, and I see it all the time. I just got a call from a company yesterday that said, "Hey, you know of any truck drivers looking for work?" No. But and everybody's in the same boat. And I think that what we need to do is we need to be a little more proactive about this.
I agree.
So if you want, what we would need is make a motion to make the recommendation that we go into a continuous advertising.
I make a motion that we go to a continuous eligibility list and make that recommendation to personnel.
We'll take it from here to personnel. All right. And of course, personnel meets next month and we'll bring it up then and see what happens.
Second.
And seconded by Doug. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried.
The only thing I have to say is if you have a list, that doesn't mean that other counties are going to be grabbing them just as fast. I mean,
Well, certainly, it's just that we want to be able to, react faster than we are right now.
right.
I mean, it's especially in today's world. It's okay,
Thank you for that.
no problem. Overtime.
So I handed out the sheet with overtime by category. As you go down it, open shifts those are what are created when people are, they call in sick, or like we had that individual go out on FMLA leave, somebody gets hurt at work. It creates a bunch of open shifts very quickly. It's hard for us to react to shifts that are only a couple days out because we can't move people around. We don't have that ability, like if it's a week or 2 weeks out. I give a lot of credit to the lieutenants. They work on that constantly. They had a big mess here with our officer that went down, being able to, take one person off of the jail schedule and move them to the patrol schedule and organize all of those shift changes. It really is a hectic task. The holiday hours, the way the budget works is holiday hours get listed as overtime when somebody works on a holiday. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that because we have zero control over it, and it's an extra half hour wages every hour that they work. But it is what it is. That's why that number is so high. It goes up with every holiday that we have. And it's just the regular people who are working shifts that day. Training at 23 hours is still relatively low. That's when people go to training for various things, or maybe training goes over a shift a little bit. Investigation, again, it's something that's things that come up. If we have an overdose death that comes in the middle of the night, there's going to be a bunch of overtime because we're going to have to call a bunch of folks in to handle it. And if it happens during the day, then we don't have to call folks in. So we're kind of at the mercy of large events taking place that contribute to investigations. Meetings, you know, that's a little higher than normal, but with the changes in personnel, with myself going to chief deputy, we had to have some meetings to make sure everybody was on the same page with their new duties. Transports happens to be very low right now. That's because, again, the lieutenants move people around on shifts and utilize officers on straight time to do transports. Scheduled overtime is when, again, that kind of usually comes from FMLA leave, or we're going to probably have some scheduled overtime if we're 1 or 2 officers down on patrol in like July, because so many people take vacation and we just don't have the ability to move people around enough with 12 officers to cover every single bit of that vacation that's taken. So that's kind of how it goes. Any questions on it? Yes, Doug.
Could you, like from now on, kind of give us like last year's in with the same one? It's actually easier to look and for you to talk about if there's, you know, a big discrepancy of one time to the next. Right now, we're just looking at this and listening to an explanation. It's kind of the same thing every time, but it's a little bit easier for us to.
I will do that, and I think
You can put it on the same paper. You know, if you put one on top of each other, that's fine.
okay.
Same paper.
The same time-ish, right? That's what you're asking
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
Because you
Like
know,
last
dates
year.
won't match up, but we can get kind of close. I'll pick the week that's closest to it. Absolutely, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I can tell you they're very similar to last year's this year. We are fairly low. The problem is when you have a year that's an outlier where something happens, you know. Any other questions on it then?
No, the jail study, who wants to take that? You or Chris?
Maybe we both can a little bit. We got that letter from Nancy, and that basically said that there's 6 beds that we can't use right now. So we'll address that problem, and we'll probably be able to remedy that, you know, in a couple months or so. Then the large issues with the building integrity, the plumbing, heating, electrical, the roof, the ceiling, those are things that the jail study committee has already talked about, and they have Scott working on bringing somebody in and getting an estimate on fixing those issues. I really believe one of the things we have to address most with our jail, though, is, you know, having one dispatcher and one jailer in this connected facility like we have. We can't lose sight of that, because it really is dangerous working in that jail where if an inmate were to overcome a staff member, really they'd have to overcome 2 staff members one at a time. And there is no barrier between the first and the second officer. The dispatch center is wide open. There's no door on it. It's such a small area, you really can't put a door on it. And I don't know how we can, you know, with the current facility, we can't really fix that problem the way it is. You know, today is the jail tour for you folks. And if we're going to look at any possibility of fixing that jail up, I definitely think everyone that wants to fix that jail up should have to go through it and really look at how the layout works. And, you know, there aren't a lot of options with the layout that we have to try and fix things that we have. So the jail study committee, though, is looking at that. They're looking at everything just kind of more in depth than what the last jail study did. Probably because of the sticker shock of building a new facility. I think they're re-going over everything and making sure there's nothing they missed or that there isn't something that can be explored further. So Scott is working on getting bids from, not bids, but cost analyses, I guess, from other counties that have built jails to see if ours is on board based on the size. And he's also working on bringing that individual in to get some sort of an estimate on fixing up our jail and the glaring problems we have with it.
I guess the only thing I would add is, with main cell block one, the crack safety glass, that's gonna be an easy repair. I'll be speaking with, maintenance to see about getting that replaced as soon as we can. J block cell one, toilet is leaking. Looked up the quotes on the toilet and sink. It's around $2,500 for the toilet and sink unit. I'm guessing around 3,000 for install, although I'm a little apprehensive before we know what the plumbing issue comes out to be. To actually replace that rather than have to redo anything. Huber dorm, we've got, we're requesting a quote from our correctional service provider for the 2 bunks. Last time I looked a few years ago and we requested a quote, it was around $2,000 per bunk. Just so you have an idea of where that's going. When Nancy had done her inspection, probably the biggest issue is what she's going to determine as a timeline for when corrections need to be made. I think that's going to be part of the driving force here. When we had spoken last time, it was around 6 months. When she drafts a letter, it's 6 months for a decision to be made or progress to be made, if not corrected, or some type of direction.
Okay. The on the roof on that jail, what is the size of that building? Do you know?
I don't know the size of the building and the square footage. I have to look back at the plans. But there's 2 issues with the roof. One of the things that Nancy had touched on, the jail inspector, was the ceiling tiles. She wanted a security ceiling installed inside the jail. It doesn't pay to put a security ceiling inside the jail because if you've got the roof leaking, you've got water building up and pooling, and the security ceiling has nowhere to go. As of right now, the water just leaking down on the floor and then it dries. So you've got the security ceiling issue. Speaking with her, she said it's going to be probably comparable to what the roof is going to cost. Security ceilings are very expensive. The roof itself, talking to maintenance, 10 to 12 years ago when they had this put up for somebody to bid it out, it was around 20,000 just for the plans for the roof, and then another 150 to do the install.
That was when we were looking at that time putting trusses on it, weren't we?
I believe so. They said it was like a TP style.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, because I'm just wondering where the comparison would come in just to put a flat roof back on, to buy us some time, because we're going to have to do something, even if we're building. We have to do something for the next couple of years. And obviously water running into electrical outlets is going to be a problem. So, and maybe if I knew what the comparison was compared to what it just cost me to put the roof on the transfer building. So if it was about the same size, I can tell you what that roof cost me and look from there. Go ahead.
Why are we not putting a flat roof back on?
Pardon?
It sounds like we're doing something, we're redesigning.
Well, that was to put trusses on there, to put trusses on, and I think it was like either 4 or 5 to 1 pitch.
So my question is, why are we going there rather than just leaving the flat roof?
That was this was done about 10 years back.
I'm not sure.
All right,
what the
that's
comparison or what the reasoning behind it was. I'm just going off of what
I imagine that
decisions were
was,
were made.
I don't know
I
either.
imagine that was brought up that way because years ago you had a flat roof, you were crazy, because it was only good for so long. So they were looking at the longevity of it, of putting a peaked roof on because that'll last a lot longer. So now, like he was saying, is going back to a flat roof because,
Or keeping a flat?
yeah,
Basically what they're going.
keeping it. And
Yeah, you're going to have to somehow. We got to get a short-term fix because obviously Nancy is pushing it now.
Well, again, the question is, why wouldn't we just get a quote for a flat? We are going to get a quote for a flat roof.
I would imagine because they came up with a different products now. There's
Oh, yeah,
so many
I mean,
different
yeah,
products out there than
absolutely.
when that study was taken. So
There's
Okay.
a ton of equipment on the roof too. That, I don't know how that plays into it. I'm sure that
Yeah.
doesn't help the cost, but because there's holes everywhere with antennas and our internet, goes through the roof and stuff. So
How do you guys get through the roof? Is there access from the inside to the roof?
No, I believe you have to go up the ladder from the outside,
Is there a ladder on the outside?
or they put a ladder out.
Oh, okay. All right.
The bigger issue probably gonna be that, because I assume it's a metal roof there. A lot of that's gonna be replaced.
I'm worried there's going to be mold in the attic really bad.
Is it a wooden roof or is it metal?
We think it's metal.
I think they've
Yeah,
got it.
usually
with
that
asphalt
long
or,
weekend, it's gonna be.
like a
rubber
roof
or? Should be a built up asphalt, over insulation. It's flat roof.
and just from the pictures that I've seen, they had basically gravel, I think, on
Yep.
top.
They put gravel on its ballast to hold roof down. Every time you open the door, you get air from the inside that wants to push the roof up.
So I'm not sure what's underneath that.
Usually it's that, it's got just insulation under there.
Mhm.
If it's been leaking, the insulation's all saturated with water and then the roof gets in there. That's pretty typical.
Okay. Any other questions on that jail update? Okay,
These cells
Yeah.
that are not able to use now, 6 cells.
Yes,
So what you talked about is what the fixes are.
yes. Like I said, the security glass, that's gonna be an easy fix. We'll just get with maintenance, have them replace that, and then we should be able to get that one cell back. The toilet, like I said, I'm very apprehensive to actually move forward with anything until we know what's going on with the plumbing. Because the unit itself is about 2,500, how it's gonna attach to the wall and labor and everything, I just don't know how that would play out. I don't think you wanna do something, pay twice, basically, if you have to. And then, the bunk beds, I'm just waiting for a quote, and then we can move forward with those and replace those. That should be an easy fix. It's just $4,000 to $5,000, I'm guessing.
okay. Any other questions for either Jason or for Scott?
Now, was this jail inspection, is that the normal time for inspection, or is it yearly, or?
Typically, it's annually, with the county board voting down phase 3. The jail inspector had asked us where it's at. They advised her, they voted down moving on to phase 3. She asked what the intentions were. And I said, Sheriff's Department basically told her that a strategy committee has been implemented and we don't know exactly where it's going with that. There's, on her annual report, she cited a lot of the deficiencies within the jail year after year. And she's kind of given us a pass with the understanding that we're moving forward in some direction. At this time, it's, I guess, my understanding, if not everyone from the sheriff's department, that there isn't really a specific direction. It's kind of more of a decision phase. So since we're not moving forward in any one direction, she's saying, okay, I'd be in dereliction of my duty if I don't start addressing these deficiencies within the jail. So she's making it kind of drawing her line in the sand. If you guys aren't doing anything, then I've still got to cover CYA myself as far as my position as a jail inspector.
So you think if it was moved to phase 3, they would call the dogs off?
I don't want to say what the jail inspector would do or what she wouldn't do. Just my conversation with her are that if there's no decision being made, then she's got to work with what she's dealing with, what the known issues are at this. Although from our conversations, it's very much up to the county what their decision is as far as how they want to proceed.
Well, we were warned.
I'm sure the 6 beds that are shut down until those things are fixed. The other things, I don't know if she would. I think we don't know. We haven't been through this before either.
Okay. Let's go back to the question for Scott.
Scott, my understanding is that the county board okayed all subsequent positions that come open with the jail lieutenant I keep saying jail lieutenant, the patrol lieutenant,
Mhm.
when I switched over to the chief deputy. The last one in line for that is our cross-trained officer. We now are moving Deputy Jandrin out to patrol. And we want to cross-train somebody else for his position so that we are set up for the future if something goes, somebody goes out on FMLA or something like that on patrol, so that we can utilize that individual to fill in like we have done in the past. Does that position have to go to the full county board again, or am I correct in that it was because all subsequent positions were okay to be filled? Is that just another one that we can fill? That's the question.
The executive committee with the approval of chief deputy also approved any cascading all the way down to what would possibly be a jailer dispatcher. So, from chief deputy, we went to lieutenant. Now from lieutenant, we went to investigator. Now from investigator, we're taking a patrol person from patrol and making them an investigator. So then the question is, if you're just now putting a person onto, so now we have a deputy that is open. So how that deputy is open, if you're wanting that to be a cross-trained person, that's fine. It's still a patrol deputy. And then from there, I would assume that a jailer dispatcher would have been moved up into a patrol position. So then that jailer dispatcher would be open. So however each of them opens up is what gets filled. Does that make sense? So from an executive standpoint or from a HR standpoint, we're paying the officer the same whether they're duly trained or whether they're not. Are we not?
No, it moves them into a patrol title and they become unionized.
Right, because you're taking someone from the jail and now making them unionized, where before that position was then open because you moved whoever was within the jail into a patrol position, correct?
Correct.
So that's just a cascading thing.
Thank you.
Because so let me ask it this way, Chief Deputy. Are we, and from a simplicity standpoint, are we adding any more people into the union than what's already there? I would say probably not. So it's the same.
Thank you.
Thanks much, Scott. Okay. Resolution supporting the ongoing jail cost reimbursement.
That has kind of remedied itself. The state has came out with some direction that they are basically addressing that problem, and they are going to make sure that it doesn't continue to be a problem. Luckily in Kewaunee County, it really didn't affect us that much. We were pretty lucky in order to get inmates in. Chris could probably address this better than me, but my understanding is because we'd have like one inmate waiting to go to Dodge, they'd usually take our one inmate. Some of the larger counties where they'd have 15 inmates waiting to go, they'd put that off, especially because of COVID. They just didn't want to take that many in at a time, or whatever it might have been. They didn't have that much room. So they'd really make them, they'd leave them in the county jail for extended periods of time. We were pretty lucky. It did extend our period of time, but not to the level that it was doing it on large counties. And now because the state has said that they're really going to be looking at this and it's not going to happen anymore, we don't think that the resolution is necessary. Did I cover that adequately?
Okay. Next Gen 911.
So we have everything installed. March 30th, we had not conducted the training. All the equipment is installed. March 31st, we had gone go live. We are on the new 911 equipment. Dispatch is using it. We ran into one issue with headsets and trying to sync up the Johnson Wiscom system with the new 911 call taking system. Over the last week, that has been resolved as of Monday. The dispatchers are able to use the headsets, use the 911 system, the radio system, and it's all working very well. big plus is we do have 911 mapping again. So the officers are getting 911 calls. We can see it on the map where the call is coming from. It actually updates, I believe, every minute. So vehicle, person in a car calls 911. We're seeing on the map where they're going. So it's a huge plus from where we're at.
Has it been upgraded? Can you do text 911?
Not as of this time. We're still waiting for the state to get up there first. But that hasn't been implemented yet.
Okay,
We're back up to where we should have been for a long time.
okay.
Much better system. We are going to have better tracking. Phones will be able to respond quicker. It has a lot of features that I think help patrol and dispatch too that we didn't used to have. We can transfer a 911 caller right to patrol now. So there's a critical incident going on. Somebody's got a gun or a knife in a house, something like that. We can literally, when the officers arrive and get in position, they can transfer that call and the officer can start giving directions on the phone instead of having to relay through dispatch and radio. It really is a nice system that we're finally moving up with technology, and we have what other counties have for a long time.
Okay. You've got a jail tour for anybody that wants to go. And then Jason had sent us our chief deputy had sent us some information on the Milo training. Has anyone responded to it?
I don't know. I wanted to explain what it was too.
Go ahead.
So we have insurance for the county through, I don't know, Aegis, is that how you pronounce it? And part of what they do, because they cover so many law enforcement agencies, is they have a interactive training, portable kind of a device. What it is a big screen, and it's interactive with the officer, and they play videos essentially, and you go armed with their gun and their taser, and they're just electronic fake guns and tasers, kind of like a video game, but they are very realistic. And you interact with the screen, and our training officers are able to, based on commands you give or what you do, they can make the screen do different things. And it's a great way to teach our officers use of force and shoot, don't shoot type scenarios. It really is some nice training. NWTC has a room for it, but you have to pay for it. Here, we're able to borrow it for free, and we keep it for, they like it to be two weeks, but we have a very good relationship with the guy that runs it, and he's allowing us to keep it for a month. So we are running all of our officers and city officers in Kewaunee County through the same training. They get different scenarios, and we can kind of base scenarios on the officer, and we know that things that they may need more training in or things they need less training in. So it's really a useful tool. There's like 1,000 scenarios you can run at them. So if anybody wants to go to that and observe and or participate, we have openings today and we have openings next Wednesday.
Well, you can come at night. What is the training at night is what, 5 until 7?
5 until 7 today is a opening, yeah.
Okay.
And you could come for part of that or the whole thing if you want. Next, 11 o'clock today till 1, we have plenty of openings. 5 till 7 tonight. And then next Wednesday from noon to 6, there's openings the whole time. So I guess see me after the meeting if you want to come to that and observe or participate. It's kind of eye-opening. It really is. I brought at one time, I went after hours when this was all set up, and I brought my son and my neighbor. And the neighbor is going to school to be an engineer. And he did this, and he got extremely frustrated because he wasn't doing a good job talking to the people, and they were becoming violent with him. So I think it really educated him. And I told him, remember the rest of your life, when somebody's talking bad about police and decisions they made in a split second, you remember this training you went through and how frustrated you were with it. And I really think he'll be an advocate to a point for police forever just because of that training he went to. So.
Okay. After the meeting, if you're interested, talk to Chief Deputy. All right. Our next meeting date, May 12th, here in Kewaunee again. And in June, it would be June 9th. Is that good for everybody? Okay, sounds good. June 9th it is. Travel requests. No, Tracy, we're not going to give you a travel request to go to Texas. But if you stop at a Cracker Barrel, bring me back some double cola. Double cola. Yeah. It's sold at Cracker Barrel, believe it or not.
This Cracker Barrel is here in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there one in Racine? Oh, really? Okay.
Appleton's got one right off the highway, right?
Does it really? Okay. Okay. Any other information? The only comments I have, who is it? Scott? You got something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what is the procedure for after finding a silver alert person in our county, if they're from another county? The other night, there was one that was found basically at Flat Top on 29. He's from another county.
We would contact the other county. We would contact the other county, and the other county should be in touch with the people who placed the silver alert, and they would make arrangements based on the condition of the individual getting them back. So either that family would come and get them, or depending on the person and the evaluation of the officer on the side of the street, if it was turned out to be that the person had a legitimate reason for being there and they were not in danger, they would let them leave and just notify the family. So it's a case by case. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, if they're lost like that, do you take them in the car and take them somewhere?
We would find a place for them to stay until the family got here. And depends how far it is. You know what I mean? If the family's coming from Green Bay, we'd probably just wait on the side of the road for them. If they're coming from further, we would find a place for them to stay.
Just for point, anybody that's not aware, just tell us what the silver alert is.
Silver Alert is a statewide system when somebody who is elderly is missing and they feel that they're endangered. So they put up a silver alert and we try to find that individual. And usually they are somewhat endangered or lost, but there are times where they just didn't tell their family member what they're doing. So.
Oh, this guy, I guess, missed his appointment up in Wausau. Then his credit card pinged in Fish Creek, and then they,
Wow.
I think,
Report it back to 911 or is it different?
We would teletype the county that listed it. So dispatchers have the ability to send instant messages to any county in the state.
If you suspected you had seen the car or something as an individual, how would you?
911
You would.
or your local non-emergency line, depending.
yeah, at the time, I think there was some call in by a person following the car. And then I think 112 was after, got the call and kind of chased him down. I forget what night that was, but I was just wondering, what do you do with the person? Because they're going to be agitated and lost and stuff. And I was just wondering if it was like, child services does or something, if there was a place that you bring them.
Not really, just we would hold them until the other county gets there.
Yeah. And silver alert means what? Silver hair, right?
Okay. Moving forward, go ahead.
On
jail. To look at the jail today, is that just like open to the public again? Is that what you did or
No, but I believe
or is that for our committee?
the
here or what?
the committee alone, I believe the committee is supposed to be offered, or actually by statute, I think they're supposed to do a jail tour once a year. So I'm sure Chris will see you through the jail, if you want to go right after the meeting or extend your meeting and go there, whatever you want.
The only reason why I ask is because I've already seen the jail many times. I already seen the dump. I just was wondering if you were trying to show us something different or.
It's actually in statute that we, and I'm not familiar with the statute. The Chief Deputy Cornelius actually texted me and said, make sure that you put that on the agenda. That has to be done once a year per statute. So I will look into that, so I know in the future though.
Okay. Anything else? Comments? Tracy, thank you. Have a good time in Texas. We'll see you next week.
Yes, I'll be back next week.
Chief Deputy Jason, thank you very much. Covering for Matt. Lieutenant Chris, thank you. Good job. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Next meeting, May 12th. We'll see you, I'm sure, before that, but next meeting is May 12th. Yes. Motion to adjourn. All right. Second? Joe seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying